Hi everyone, my name is Archana,
My name is Rushik.
and today we are going to take you through what we did for the IELTS exam, which is an exam we wrote in order to apply for the Canadian PR process.
So, IELTS is an English test which usually people take to migrate to another country for education or for work. We took the paper version of the test for the general training offered by British Council. We were able to achieve an overall average score of 8, which from a Canadian PR perspective is CLB 10. What that means is we get the maximum possible points for the express entry application.
We were able to do this by studying for about 8 to 10 days, and in this video, we are going to take you through all the tips and tricks we used to achieve the score.
We obviously no experts, but through this video we wanted to tell you guys what are the tips and tricks that worked for us to achieve this score. There's definitely no guarantee that this will get you the score that you aim for, but our hope is that with this video you will be able to prepare better, and the information that we give in this video might help you boost your scores.
An important aspect of this exam is good English communication skills, which is what they are testing you on.
It goes without saying that the better you are at fluently communicating in English, the better scores you will get.
It is also important that if you are not a native speaker or if you are not good at communicating in English, you start by speaking with your peers, friends, and family in English, which will help to improve your communication skills.
Apart from speaking, even writing, listening, and reading is also important. So, whenever you're texting or writing an email, write it in English. Also, try to read news and articles and novels in English, as well as listen to podcasts or videos which are in English.
Now, what we're going to do is go through all of the 4 different sections of the IELTS test, and we will tell you all the tips we used for preparation, the tips during the examination, and also the resources that we used.
So, let's start with the preparation tips for listening section. The first thing I would say is during the listening section, focusing on the audio being played is the most crucial. You need to absolutely ensure that you are able to interpret each and everything that is being said in the audio. If for any reason you are finding it difficult to focus, I would suggest that you listen to podcasts or YouTube videos in English, um, and start with the 1x speed. Try to understand each and everything that is being said. If you are comfortable with the 1x speed, increase the speed to 1.2x or 1.5. Once you are comfortable at a faster pace, it will really help you in during the exam where the audio is played at a normal pace and you will be able to interpret the words or the sentences being spoken very easily.
It is also very important that you practice well and also identify areas that you are poorly performing in so that you can focus on those areas. For instance, the last section of the listening test had 10 questions and the audio for which was played continuously. We found this a little hard in the beginning, because of which we practiced a lot and we read the questions well beforehand, which really helped us get through this section.
Also, while practicing, if possible, try to print out the actual question papers so that you can go about underlining the important keywords in the questions. This will also help you practice the map questions, as you can directly sketch or write notes on the map itself. So here are a few of the common mistakes we did during the practice test. One of them was writing singular versus plural. So ensure that you listen to the audio carefully, and if they have mentioned the answer in the singular form, write it in singular form. Else, if they have mentioned it in plural form, write it in plural form. Another thing is spelling mistakes. I think autocorrect has surely spoiled us all, and we often take it for granted that we know the spellings for all the words. So make sure that you get the spellings correct.
Another common mistake that we used to do during the practice test was in the map questions. Make sure that you start in the starting point of the map and follow carefully based on the directions being given. Also, pay attention to words like next to, besides, between, and these are important keywords which will lead you to the correct answer and also to the destination on the map.
So coming to the resources, the only resource that we used were the Cambridge General Training books from 11 to 15. We use them mostly for the practice tests.
Now let's look at some of the tips that you should follow during the examination. Firstly, make sure you use every single second in the exam very wisely. Make sure you read your questions ahead of time. There will be plenty of time to read your questions apart from the given allotted time. For instance, while they ask you to review your answers, there's also time when they play out the instructions. So these are times when you can potentially use to read questions ahead of time.
You can always review the answers later in the last 10 minutes that you get to transfer the answers from the question book to the answer book.
Ensure that you underline the keywords while reading the different questions. This will help you while the recording is being played. You can just skim through the questions at that point of time and rather use the time in listening to the recording carefully and finding your answers.
Also, sometimes the recording might be confusing and you might not be sure about what the exact answer is. In that case, write down all the words that you think can be the potential answers, and then you can come back to that question later on in the last 10 minutes to review, and then you can check which of these words might be the right fit into the blank. Also, this will help you to move on to the next question right away and not think about the same question right then, so that you don't miss out the answer for the next question as well.
Now, let's look at some tips for the reading section. Again, practice is really important in the reading section. However, we didn't do too many of the reading tests only because of the fact that we fared pretty well when we did the first practice test. But in this reading test, it is really important that you identify the areas that you are poorly performing in and concentrate on those areas. For instance, both of us were kind of lacking in the true, false, and not given sections, and we concentrated on this particular section. Over here, it is really important that you do not overthink and you clearly look at what are the facts that are given in the passage. If the facts are indicating towards true, then it's true. If not, then it's false. If there are not enough facts to support true or false, then the answer is not given.
So for the resources, we just use the Cambridge General Training books 11 to 15. So let's look at the tips to follow during the examination. So one of the tips that I followed was to mark or underline the answer in the passage, so that when I was re-verifying the answers, I could easily spot it in the passage and I don't waste time again reading through the passage, right? Also, all the questions for a particular question type will be in a sequence. So I would suggest reading the questions first and then reading the passage. But at the same time, you should make sure that you read two questions at a time, because sometimes you might keep reading and you might miss the answer for the first question and end up finding the answer for second question. What that indicates is that you missed the answer for the first one, so you can go back to the previous section of the passage and figure out what was the answer for the first one. Also, the last question is the most difficult one, I think, because firstly the passage is huge and it has almost 12 to 13 questions. So I would suggest that finish the first two parts as soon as possible and then focus more on the last part. So for the last part also, I would suggest that read through all the paragraphs, write a 1 or 2 words description about what each paragraph is about. So this summary will actually help you later, as when you come across the next few questions, you know exactly where to look into the passage or which paragraph to look into.
So now let's look at some of the common tips for the listening and reading sections. It is very important that you write the exact words that are being said in the recording or that is present in the text. We also recommend using block letters to write answers to these two sections to avoid confusion between lower and uppercase letters.
Also pay special attention to what is the expectation of the words and numbers in the answer. Sometimes they will ask you to write 2 words and or a number. In that case, even an answer like 17 West Street is accurate. Also, what I've observed is if the expectation is that the answer will consist of 2 or 3 words maximum, then there will be at least one question which will have an answer with 2 or 3 words. So if in that particular question type you don't find an answer that has 2 or 3 words, maybe you're doing something wrong.
So, for the speaking section, it is really important that you converse in English on a day to day basis. For Rushik and me, English is the medium of communication, and so that really helped us during the IELTS exam. It is also very important to record yourself so you can listen to the recording and identify areas in which you are lacking and also improve upon those areas. So, for the speaking tasks too, we went through the topics given in the Mucker speaking book, and this was really helpful. Both me and Rushik got the topics from this book. So, we already had an idea because we had skimmed through the topics beforehand, and this really helped us perform well in this task. Another method that really helped us was the J's PPF method. PPF stands for past, present, and future. This really helped us, especially to cover enough content for the 2 minutes topic that we were asked to speak for. Another thing that both me and Rushik did was watch high band speaking videos of other people and learn from what they were speaking, and this really helped us also improve our structure of speaking. So the resources I've also already mentioned. One was the Mucker speaking book. Secondly, it's the J's PPF method. And thirdly, it's the academic English help for high band videos.
For speaking, one of the problems that I face is I get very nervous in an interview setting. So think about the speaking test as a normal conversation rather than an interview, and also just be calm, be yourself, speak freely. I would say don't repeat yourself again and again. Even if you make a mistake, don't try to correct it or repeat the sentence again. Just move on and keep going. During the speaking test, you will have to wear a mask and speak through the mask. So make sure you practiced at least a few times wearing a mask and speaking, because you want to make sure that your voice doesn't come out muffled. So let's look at some writing preparation tips. I think it's very important that you practice as much as you can. We did at least one practice test a day for writing, and I think it is very important that you sit, put a timer for 1 hour, and do both task 1 and 2 together. What that does is it will help you with time management. For me, especially, I would write very long essays and long letters, which was almost double the word count, and that clearly meant that I had to organize my thoughts well. Because when I was writing, there would always be an outburst of ideas in my head, and I would try to write about all of them. What really helped me is to organize those ideas and just focus on a couple of ideas and elaborate more on those ideas. So I would write about a particular idea, give instances about them, give proper reasoning, etc. Also, when you're practicing, don't just write and forget. Do go through what you have written. I think self review is very important, because if you are able to identify your own mistakes, and I think that is the first step to ensure that the next time when you are attempting, you won't repeat the same mistakes again. Also, you can get a review from someone else who is good at writing. Even if they are not experts, I think they can still give you feedback about the overall flow of ideas, how natural does your writing sound, and even things like spelling mistakes. I think it's very important to stick to the structure, and that's how I was able to make sure that I don't write a huge essay. Instead, by just sticking to the structure, I was able to write just enough for me to express my ideas in a concise way. For the structure, I recommend you watch the IELTS videos on YouTube by Jay or by Liz, and also do check out the structure for each task, which is letter and essay, as well as for each type of essay. So once you know the structure, all you have to do is fill in your ideas correctly and stick to that structure. Also, vocabulary is important in the writing task, but that doesn't mean you have to go find all the difficult and uncommon words that you have never heard of and write those in your essays. What I would recommend instead is that find the words related to the context. So, if you're writing an essay about a movie per se, or like about film industry, writing the context specific words like blockbuster movie or a box office hit, I think those will help you more than just writing uncommon words. One of the good books I found for this was 1000 English Collocations in 10 minutes a day. This book basically has passages about different contexts, and then it has words or collocations highlighted. So you can just go through the highlighted collocations and just have those in your mind. And though reading through a lot of them, you might feel that you already know them, but trust me, during the test you'll often find yourself struggling to find the right words, and at that time, due to the pressure, you might not be able to find. I think another important tip about vocabulary in general is do not repeat the same words. Obviously, if the task is about internet, you will end up writing the word internet a lot of times. But I would say don't repeat the sentences again and again. For example, the question sentence, you might have to repeat that in the introduction as well as in the conclusion. I think it's very important to paraphrase. I think letters are quite simple to write. Just identify what type of letter it is, a formal, semi-formal, or an informal. Based on that, stick to the structure and just keep it as simple as possible, because that just has one third of the weightage. The major weightage is for the task two. Also, I recommend that you practice in the format that you're going to take the test. As we were going to take the test in the paper version, we usually just practiced on paper. So what that did was it helped us getting the spellings correct, or the writing speed on a computer versus on the paper is different. Also, handwriting is important. Make sure you write clearly so that people can still read. Also, do read higher band essay samples. What that does is it will give you an idea of how the author has put his ideas into the text. Also, through the samples, you can take inspiration on how to start a letter or end a letter, or even for the task two, where you have to express your opinion, so you can get inspirations on how they've used different words to present their ideas or opinions. Okay, let's look at the few resources that we used for practicing. We took most of the questions from the Cambridge General Training book. We also followed the YouTube videos by Jay, Liz, and also Rebecca. And the last book I would like to recommend is The Thousand Collocations in 10 Minutes a Day. During the exam, I would suggest that you attend the task 2 first, because that has more weightage. And writing a letter is usually simple, so you can attempt that in the last 20 minutes. Another thing I would suggest is take a lot of sharpened pencils, so that in the test you don't have to waste time sharpening your pencils. Also, I have heard a lot of people asking how much time does it take to prepare. I would say it really depends on how good you are at communicating in English. For us, like Archana mentioned earlier, we usually communicate in English with each other and even in work setting. So we are quite used to speaking and writing in English. So all we had to do during the preparation time was get familiar with the test format. But if you think that your English communication skills are not as good, then I would suggest start practicing right away. The time needed for preparation really depends on the current level of English skills that you have. So these are some of the tips that we followed to get a good score in the IELTS exam. I hope that this help you out and you are able to get the score that you aim for. Please do let us know in the comment section if you have any questions, or you can even reach out to us on our Facebook page linked in the description. If you found this video helpful, please do like and share, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Good luck.